Good morning and welcome to City Council meeting. Good morning for January the 24th. Apologies for a little bit of delay. We'll start off, if we could, first of all, Madam City Clerk, with a roll call.
Thank you, Mayor Hagan. Councillor Campbell.
Present.
Councillor Carlson.
Present.
Councillor Crowson.
Present.
Councillor Dodick.
Present.
Councillor Middleton Hope. Oh, he was here. Okay, thank you. Councillor Palladino. Acting Mayor Schmidt-Rempel.
Here.
Mayor Parker. And Mayor Hagan.
Present. All right, the City of Lethbridge acknowledges that we're gathered on the lands of the Blackfoot people of the Canadian Plains and pays respect to the Blackfoot people, past, present, and future, while recognizing and respecting their cultural heritage, beliefs, and relationships to the land. The City of Lethbridge is also home to the Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3. Start off with recognitions. I'll start to my far left. Councillor Dodick.
Nothing from me.
Councillor Campbell.
Thank you. Just wanted to shout out to Lethbridge Playgoers Association. They're celebrating their 100th anniversary. The oldest play company in Western Canada and among the oldest in all of Canada. It's quite a recognition, and they've got a big show coming up to celebrate. It's called The Show That Goes Wrong. I hear it's hilarious, and it's opening February the 7th to the 11th. It's got a 2 p.m. matinee on February the 11th. It's going to be a great one and fun to support an amazing organization. Thank you.
Councillor Carlson.
Thank you, Mayor Hagan. Councillor Campbell stole mine, which is fine. So I'll just wish everyone, since this is our first council meeting of the new year, Happy New Year to everyone. Thank you.
Acting Mayor Schmidt-Rempel.
Thank you very much. Shout out to the students and schools who participated in the snowplow naming contest. Congratulations to the students at Children of St. Martha's, Lethbridge Christian School, Father Leonard Van Tighem, Park Meadows Elementary School, who submitted the names that were selected for our snowplows. You will see those out on the streets when it snows again. And we have other naming opportunities coming up from what I understand. Certainly also, thank you to the Rotary Club of Lethbridge Downtown, who hosted members of council and provided us with an opportunity to hear from Ilona Sinchek, a Ukrainian newcomer to our community, and the difficulties that are going on in the Ukraine right now. Certainly, thank you as well to our staff and members of our community that came out to the January 18th community engagement session. It was great to see so many people out there offering constructive feedback on the city's projects, and we certainly look forward to that feedback coming back to that. Congratulations to Fee Simple Law on their grand opening last week, and thank you to the organizers of the Food and Beverage Expo this past weekend. Again, it was great to see everyone out enjoying the event on Saturday night. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Councillor Middleton Hope.
I take it we're providing kudos?
Certainly.
Excellent.
We would hope so.
Kudos to LPS and to the NMAX Center for the great co-sponsorship of the Hurricanes game I guess it was last week. And the auction of jerseys went exceedingly well. Almost every one of the jerseys went for more than $500, and that money will be donated to the food bank. So good work.
Excellent. Councillor Crowson.
Thank you, Mayor Hagan. I'd like to welcome CBC to the community. Anytime we can get some of our Lethbridge stories out nationally, that's wonderful. As others have said, Happy New Year and Happy Lunar New Year, since both have passed since our last meeting. Following up on the Playgoers, it is only $10 to get a membership in the Playgoers. I know I have bought mine. I hope others will as well. Certainly as their 100th anniversary, there's a lot we can do. And congrats to the Troyanda Ukrainian dancers who did a silent auction over the weekend and I think reached close to, if not the full amount that they were trying to reach. I know I was outbid on everything, which makes me both sad and happy. Thank you.
Awesome. Councillor Palladino.
I have nothing to add. I think I echo the comments that have already been said, and especially the communication event at the NMAX Center. That was well attended, and I enjoyed that. Thank you.
Councillor Parker, Deputy Mayor Parker.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Well, first of all, I just want to congratulate STARS and Van Arbor Home on another successful launch of the STARS Dream Home Lottery. We haven't been able to really do that in the community where people get to see face-to-face for a few years, so and actually get to look at these houses versus regards to just seeing it on a computer. So it was really nice to be able to represent yourself and the community in doing that as well. On another note, we did have the Queen's Jubilee Awards over the last few months, and some of my colleagues were recognized and they were celebrated in ceremony, in particular Councillor Croson, but yourself, Mayor Higgin, you were also received the award, and I think it's important that we read out who nominated you, for what reasons, and I would like to actually, as the capacity as Deputy Mayor, but more your friend, I would like to give this to you and pin it on your shirt. So I just want to read out, this is what you were nominated by the Alberta municipalities. And it says, in Blaine, in partnership with the Government of Alberta, Alberta Municipalities is honored to present you with the Queen Elizabeth II Platinum Jubilee Medal. You were nominated for this award by your fellow Albertans who felt you should be recognized for your contributions, commitment, and dedication to bettering your community. The Queen Elizabeth II Platinum Jubilee Medal was struck to commemorate the 70th anniversary of the coronation of Queen Elizabeth II. Her Majesty was crowned on June 2nd, 1953 at Westminster Abbey. In her speech that day, she committed herself to the service of the people and invited her subjects to practice the principles of living in peace, seeking justice, and freedom for all. Through your actions, Blaine, you have demonstrated how these principles have helped build a better community, province, and nation. Your continued efforts to lead and encourage others to follow in your steps will ensure we create a foundation on which peace and harmony can thrive for generations to come. Congratulations on receiving this prestigious award, the Queen Elizabeth II Platinum Jubilee Award, and that is signed by our President of the Alberta Municipalities, Kathy Hearn. So I'd like to present this to you now.
They changed the light bulb.
Just here, Blaine. There we go. There we go, Blaine. Should I make sure I open this up? There we go. So congratulations, Blaine, and on behalf of myself and members of council and the community. It's very well deserved, and I'm glad we could celebrate you today in doing this. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I was called up to Edmonton here to receive this. Unfortunately, I was away, so it's even better to be here in Chambers. So thank you very much for that, Deputy Mayor. Regarding my comments for what has already been said, it's thanks, Jen. I think she was probably looking over here at my notes here, all of these kudos and stuff, but there's so many great things happening within our community. I did want to do just a couple extra shout outs here to Chinese population. It's a Chinese New Year, so and I would try to say it in Chinese, but I'd absolutely butcher it, so I will just say Happy Chinese New Year, the year of the rabbit. And a couple other things. February 4th is a polar plunge, so the police service and many throughout our community are going to be freezing for a reason at Henderson Lake, and that's on February the 4th. And the last one, which is quite exciting here, is the last week I had the opportunity to meet with Minister Vandal. He came in to do a presentation and I wish, Mr. Matthews, the exact number of millions, do you have what that number is? I
believe what you're referring to is the 11.2 million that Prairies Canada office
Yes.
is holding in the different.
Yeah, and Prairies Canada is part of Minister Vandal's portfolio, and that was everything from the university to the college to we received funding as well for Exhibition Park. There was multiple different funding announcements there that came in at over $11 million for Southern Alberta, so that's extremely exciting. I'm just touching the tip of the iceberg on all the different announcements that were done for different communities here, or different organizations here in our community. So a big, huge shout out to those that received them. And I've always said that when we received more money for the exhibition, it's less money coming off of the taxpayer's roll. It just comes out of a different pocket, I guess you will. But it's something to be able to receive those dollars is extremely important for our community. So with that, we will move on to the adoption of the agenda. I have a resolution from Acting Mayor Schmidt-Rempel, adoption of agenda. Be it resolved, the agenda of the regular meeting of City Council on January 24th, 2023 be adopted as presented. And City Clerk, are there any amendments?
No, Mayor Hagan, there are no amendments to this agenda. Thank you.
I will call the vote.
Question's been called. All in favor? Any opposed? All right, it carries. Next, I have the consent agenda. Moved by Deputy Mayor Parker. Consent agenda. Be it resolved that the minutes of the following meeting of City Council be approved and the Mayor and City Clerk be authorized to sign the same. City Council meeting 2022-12-13 and special City Council meeting of 2022-12-23. And further be resolved that City Council receive the information for the following reports. Status of directed resolutions from 2023-01-24, procurement summary report November 2022, Council Action Plan Q4 2022 report and lease agreement for the Blood Tribe Department of Health Lethbridge Shelter. And further be resolved that City Council approve the recommendations contained in the following Standing Policy Committee reports. 4.4.1 Community Capital Project Grant CCPG Annual Report. Be resolved that City Council receive the Community Capital Project Grant Annual Report as information. The next is the Fee Assistance Program Annual Report. Be it resolved the City Council receive the Fee Assistance Program Annual Report as information. Community Event Support Grant, the CESG Annual Report. Be resolved that City Council receive the Community Event Support Grant Annual Report as information. The Regional Economic Development and Tourism Strategy Draft Phase 1 Vision. Be resolved that the Economic Standing Policy Committee receive the Regional Economic Development and Tourism Strategy Draft Phase 1 Vision Report and presentation as information. And motion arising number 1 as amended, whereas Economic Development Lethbridge, EDL, and subsequently City Administration have presented to Lethbridge City Council recognizing the importance of creative industry for the economy of Alberta and the potential opportunities for Lethbridge, whereas both Administration and Economic Development Lethbridge play a key role in setting Lethbridge up for success, whereas building creative industries is a new area of exploration for the City of Lethbridge, whereas Lethbridge City Council has directed Administration to develop a creative industries policy administrative process and report back in 2023, whereas a related initiative, N41, was brought forward through the 2023 to 2026 operating budget process and referred to this meeting, and whereas until these internal processes are complete, the city role, responsibilities, and future path will not be realized. Therefore, be it resolved, the Economic Standing Policy Committee recommend that Council direct Administration to continue with previous direction on developing a creative policies, industries policy and administrative process in partnership and collaboration with EDL, allocate MRSR one-time funding of $45,000 in 2023 for Administration to hire creative industry consulting services to aid and expedite creating future direction for Lethbridge, and for the 2023 to 2026 operating budget initiative N41 Economic Development Lethbridge Creative Industries Cluster. And A, cancel the 2023 funding. B, allocate the 2024 to 2026 funding for the N41 initiative, contingent upon Council setting administrative direction in this area no later than Q2 2023 through the Economic Standing Policy Committee. So for N41, $0 in 2023, $355,000 in 2024, $238,500 in 2025, and $187,070 in 2026 from MRSR. Motion arising number 2 is amended. Be it resolved that City Council approve the following 2023 to 2026 operating budget. N56, Tourism Lethbridge, Sport and Meeting Development. Number 1, approve funding for 2023 to 2026. And N57, Tourism Lethbridge, Airport Marketing for Tourism. N59, Tourism Lethbridge Digital Media Library, approve funding for 2023, and approve funding for 2024 to 2026 contingent on a qualified third party funded from the MRSR up to $37,500, providing a report with satisfactory findings to Council through the Economic Standing Policy Committee no later than November 14th, 2023 on a value for money review for Tourism Lethbridge. N39, Economic Development Lethbridge, Agri-Food Cluster Ignition, and 40, Economic Development Lethbridge, Supply Chain and Logistics, approve city contributions for 2023 to 2026 with funding returned to the City of Lethbridge if matching funds are not provided. And N42, Economic Development Lethbridge, Market Intelligence, approve funding for 2023, approve funding for 2024 to 2026, contingent upon a qualified third party funded up to $37,500 from MRSI, providing a report with satisfactory findings on the initiatives N39, N40, and N42 to Council through an Economic Standing Policy Committee no later than November 14th, 2023 on a value for money review for Economic Development Lethbridge And B, administration to follow up with Economic Development Lethbridge on the status of the below recommendations contained in the Phase 3 KPMG fiscal and operational performance review and report back on January 24th meeting of Council through the Economic Standing Policy Committee. Clarify city's relationship to EDL and improve communications. Number 2, board composition and size. Number 3, review city role and appointments on the EDL board. Number 4, mandate clarification and alignment of city/region. And number 5, the city investment. Be it resolved that City Council provide first reading to the following bylaws: Bylaw 6388, Downtown Business Improvement Area Tax Bylaw, and Bylaw 6393, Amendment to Traffic Bylaw 5834, increasing parking fees. And with that, Deputy Mayor Parker.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, for reading that out. And I know it was quite lengthy, but as you can see, a lot of stuff, a lot of work has been taking place over the Christmas break. And so there's a lengthy consent agenda. But at this time, as most people know, this is all on our city website. So people have an opportunity to look over these reports, as well as these documents, as well as reports from our SBCs. First of all, does any member of council have a question in regards to any of these?
Councillor Dodick does. Councillor Dodick, and actually there's a few. Councillor Dodick, start.
Okay, I have two questions, one for the city manager and one for the city clerk. The first one for the city manager is, with respect to 4.4.4, and specifically with respect to the motion arising, dealing with item number 2 in the first motion dealing with Tourism Lethbridge, and item 2A, or sorry, yes, 2A dealing with Economic Development Lethbridge. Those are the ones that have $37,500 allocated to do a value for money review for Tourism Lethbridge, and the other one is for money for value review with respect to Economic Development Lethbridge. Have any steps been taken at this point in time to actually retain anyone to do those studies? In other words, has any money been spent or committed to address those two?
I'll look to Mr. Elliott or Mr. Matthews to correct me, but to my knowledge, we have not taken any steps as yet. Haven't had time.
Thank you. Okay, the second question is the city clerk. If someone on council was of a mind, that being myself, to pull this particular consent agenda item out, put it on the regular agenda, and then do a motion or a resolution to remove from that motion arising as amended items 2 dealing with Tourism Lethbridge and item 2A dealing with Economic Development Lethbridge. In other words, to remove the requirement and the funding to do the value for study. How would one go about doing that?
Thank you for the question. So it can be removed from consent agenda, and then any councillor can move whatever they like. They can move that resolution, they can move an alternate resolution, they can move the original resolution, or whatever they like, because this is just a recommendation from committee.
Thank you. I would like that item 4.4.4 removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda.
We have 4.4.4 removed from the consent agenda, and we'll be discuss that under, we put that in, Madam City Clerk, right after official business, is that?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay.
Committee submissions.
Under committee submissions, under 8, yes. We'll move that to 8. 4.4.4 will go to 8. Confused yet?
Oh, thank you.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you. All right, with that, Councillor Park, Deputy Mayor
I
Parker.
think there's some more questions on your.
Councillor Carlson.
Thank you, Mayor Hagan. Just through you to city clerk or city manager designate on the status of directed resolutions. The first one talks about the date of return for the discussions between Tourism Lethbridge and Lethbridge Lodging Association. Did we get that update at? I believe Mr. Elliott provided just a quick verbal update, so I'm wondering why that's still on our status of directed resolutions, or should that fall away, or is there something contemplated coming back at a future date?
Thank you, Councillor Carlson. Through the chair, That was reported on the December 21st Economic SPC. It's really up to council how you wish to proceed. We will provide updates as conversations continue to evolve. I can report they are ongoing. We've got a third meeting scheduled in March, and regardless of what's on the list, we would be reporting back to council on the status of those conversations.
Councillor Crowson?
Thank you, Mayor Higgin. A question through you to the city manager or designate from the procurement summary report. I note that we did a contract with Tolstrup for snow removal for 4 years for bus stops, park and ride, and transit building. Just wondering when that started, or has it started already?
Mr. Kaskor is in the audience here, Councillor. I'll have him come up and answer that question.
Good afternoon. So that contract should be currently underway.
Okay, good. Thank you, because this is a major bugaboo for many people in the community is you can't always access the bus stops and everything. So happy to know that that's being started. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor Higgin.
Thank you. I have no further questions. So back to Deputy Mayor.
Nothing. Sorry, I was just finishing up a thought with my colleague here. Otherwise, thank you for the questions. Thank you for the suggestions on the removal and adding it to later on the agenda. Otherwise, I'd call the question.
Question's been called. All in favor? Any opposed? So carries. All right. We have no presentations, so we'll move along to official business. I do have official business motion from Councillor Middleton Hope and Councillor Palladino regarding a permanent shelter. And I'll read it first and then we'll go to questions. Permanent shelter, 6.1, whereas the City of Lethbridge recognizes it has an obligation to provide shelter to its citizens in time of need, and whereas City Administration has made efforts to provide temporary shelters and comfort centers for homeless and underhoused citizens by working with the Government of Alberta and community agencies on a solution, and whereas sheltering the difficult to house has taken an ad hoc approach, leaving gaps in service delivery, particularly during extreme cold weather. And whereas City Administration is desirous of a long-term, effective, and efficient solution to this challenge, and whereas the Government of Alberta has indicated that $1 million in funding is available for shelter space if the City of Lethbridge has proper location and approvals in place. Therefore, be it resolved that Council direct Administration develop a strategic long-term response for sheltering residents in need and those who are difficult to house, high acuity, including the establishment of a permanent shelter that may also be used to temporarily house citizens during severe inclement weather, or in the event of a disaster, including any required funding amounts and the proposed sources of funds, and report back to Council through the Cultural and Social Standing Policy Committee by the end of Q2 2023. Open up for questions. Councillor Campbell.
Thank you, Your Worship. But just in regards to the $1 million that the province says that's available, I could be wrong. I'm just trying to remember. It seems to me that there was a time limit on that $1 million. Has that changed, or am I wrong on that, or is that still available in any time frame? Or can someone respond to that?
I will start. I'm looking to my team, Ms. Kleisinger, if she has anything. 1 year? Yeah, it's still available as far as we know. And Kleisinger.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Schmidt-Rempel.
Thank you very much. And questions to the movers on this one. I just want to confirm that this is not intended to replace or close down the current permanent shelter operations being offered by the Blood Tribe Health Services?
No, it's not. This is a permanent winter or a permanent weather facility and a permanent emergency facility, which we currently do not have. It does not impugn the relationship that we currently have with the day shelter that is currently being run by Blood Tribe Health Services.
And with inclement weather, you mentioned cold weather. Would it also be a hot weather? So that if people needed air conditioning or cooling space, it would be that as well?
Direction to administration would be to identify a weather shelter.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Carlson.
Thank you, Mayor Higgin, and thank you to the movers for bringing this forward. I do appreciate being proactive. My question through you, Mr. Mayor, is to city manager or designate. I assume this was already happening. This has been on the top of council's agenda and discussions for a long time. In fact, it was one of the first things we discussed in our orientation at the NMAX was the need to get these types of shelters and approvals in place. So I assume this isn't something we're going to suddenly start working on. I assume this has been something we've been working on. Am I wrong?
You're the mayor? No, you're not wrong. I think this is important, though, and it assures we're all aligned and in the same boat, rowing in the same direction. So I think that reaffirming this and ensuring that we have a focused effort on this towards a goal is absolutely crucial.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I see no further questions. So to open debate, Councilor Palladino or Councilor Middleton Hope, I don't know. One to open, one to close. All right, Councilor Palladino.
That'll work. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Co-sponsoring this motion was a no-brainer to me. And frankly, I was of the opinion that this had already been done as well. I'm hoping that this time some concrete solutions will be presented. I look back at the attempts by previous council to locate supportive housing sites that failed for one reason or another. That was followed by the encampments of last summer. And then it appears we have abandoned the Civic Center location. And let's not forget the park and ride and the damage caused there. And now the Streets Alive warming center, which lasted all of 2 weeks. I think council is still waiting for some real options to either buy, lease, or rent, and finally approve a more permanent solution. This motion is presented to express a sense of urgency on this matter, and I trust my colleagues on council will agree and join us in supporting it.
I will support this. I think, although I know that the work has been ongoing, this does give definitive direction to administration to continue that work and actually report back to council with a set date, which I think is extremely important. So thank you very much, Councillor Middleton Hope and Councillor Palladino for bringing this forward. I don't have any further debate, so Councillor Middleton Hope, close.
I think Councillor Palladino has placed the ball clearly in the court of administration. There now is provided, assuming that we are in favor of this motion, there is now clear direction that this is an initiative of council, and we want this to be moved forward expeditiously. Thank you.
The question's been called. All in favor? Any opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you. I do have another official business resolution from Councillor Croson, tax class review. Whereas it has been considerable time since the City of Lethbridge reviewed its tax classes and subclasses, and whereas a review of the current possibilities for tax classes in the Municipal Government Act and a comparison with other municipalities may suggest better ways for the City of Lethbridge to proceed in this area. Be it resolved that the City Council direct the City Administration, City Manager and Administration to review the current state of Lethbridge's tax classes and review possibilities on tax classes in the Municipal Government Act, and 2, conduct a tax subclass review of some of the Alberta municipalities and compare where possible historic rates for these communities and Lethbridge and other municipalities are doing differently or the same as Lethbridge, and what trends and information can be derived by such a comparison. And number 3, prepare a presentation on tax classes and subclasses to be presented to the Economic Standing Policy Committee before the end of June 2023. As part of the presentation, administration will prepare recommendations for Economic Standing Policy Committee to consider, which may include retaining the status quo or suggesting different classes and or recommending adjustments to the tax ratio between classes. Administration will also, as part of the presentation, include recommendations on how to provide comparatives with other municipalities as a benchmark for potential future discussions and decisions. I'm going to start off with questions, and I do have one just to the mover here. The first be it resolved, the City Council direct the City Manager and Administration. I think if we removed off administration, because we cannot direct administration, just the City Manager, is that okay? Or I guess that would be a,
Fine.
that's fine, okay. And move on, Councillor Carlson.
Thank you, Mayor Hagan, and thank you, Councillor Croson, for bringing this forward again during our orientation. This is one of the things that was discussed, and I appreciate it coming forward now. My question through you, Mr. Mayor, to the city manager or designate is we do adjust the ratios between classes. I know that I've been around this table long enough that we've adjusted the ratios between classes, but I don't think we've actually looked at differing classes or subclasses lately. How do we usually go about adjusting the ratios when we do make changes to those?
Through the mayor to Councillor Carlson, and I'll start here, and if Mr. Laverty corrects me of my ways if I go a little astray. Typically on the ratio side, we haven't adjusted them as much between residential and non-residential. The assessment values that we have in those are an amount of the properties that make that up, and of course then those properties attract a certain percentage of taxation, and that's been kind of a standard for in the model we're using today for a number of years. So in that regard, there's a piece here where we would bring that forward and talk to council or economic XBC out of this to understand how we do that today. What's the ratios, and I think what you're referring to there, Councillor Carlson, is actually once again the ratios between residential and non-residential. And what is looking at here in regards to subclasses, also there is potential for subclasses in residential, not in non-residential. So, but we can go through, gives different examples, and some of the pieces in this, if council chooses to do this OBM, we can actually take a look at some of the other comparatives and what other municipalities are doing in those areas under the MGA.
Thank you, because right now we've just got residential and then multifamily residential, if I read.
That is correct, yeah. Those two subclasses, and then obviously non-residential.
Okay, thank you. Second question to the mover, if I can, Councillor Croson.
Machinery and equipment class where other communities do, and whether that might be the right way to go or if we're in there doing it appropriately. But we haven't reviewed some of these things for a long time from the class structure of our taxes. So there's some things there, and it may come back that the status quo is what we need. We don't know, but it has been so long since this has been reviewed that this is an opportunity to review it.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Middleton.
Thank you, Your Worship. To Councillor Croson, did you indicate that it was since the 1960s this has not been had a fulsome review? So that would be a long time.
No, I didn't say that. I said the decision not to have machinery and equipment as one of our tax classes was a decision made in the 1960s. I don't know if it's been reviewed since, but it's a decision from the 1960s that we're hanging on to regarding machinery and equipment, for an example.
Okay. I have a friendly amendment that I'd like to propose in regards to some language in the document. At point 2, conduct a tax subclass review of Alberta municipalities of comparable size and compare.
This isn't just for comparable size, though. We also want to look at our neighbors around us. We want to look at the county, who certainly isn't comparable size, but is one of our, for lack of a better term, competitors when people choose where to go. So it's not just for comparable size, which is why the wording that you see is there, because I want to have the city manager to have the option to look at other groups that may actually, in some ways, be better comparisons than just those of the same size.
Fair enough. Thank you. Then my next question through His Worship to City Manager and or his or her designates, time commitment to complete this task. And are you prepared for this?
Your Worship, to Councillor Milton Hope, in discussions with Mr. Laverty, yes, we should be able to meet it within the deadlines of June 30th. What the biggest piece will be is the research piece with other municipalities and so forth.
And you have the capacity?
Yes, we do.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I see no further questions. So, Councillor Croson, to open debate.
Thank you. So this motion was actually created with the advice and input of Mr. Matthew and Mr. Laverty. I did speak to them.
Oh, you're muted.
Sorry, my cat just walked across the computer and hit the mute button. So this motion was created with the advice and input of Mr. Matthews and Mr. Laverty. I know I spoke to Mr. Matthews over a year ago about doing this, but he asked me to wait until after the budget. So 5 minutes after we completed the budget, I emailed him and we started the conversation that created this motion. So this purpose of this is to investigate options. It's been a few years since we've done such a review, and the purpose is to provide information, help educate all of us as well as the community on possibilities, and provide some recommendations. And as I said, this is not to say that the final recommendations might not be to stay with the status quo, but the reality is that we just don't know, as we haven't looked into this for a considerable time. When speaking with Mr. Matthews and Mr. Laverty, they did mention to me that they did have the resources to do this, and this was something they were interested in doing. And if anybody wants to look at the classes, it's under the MGA 29.7 Section 1. There are 4 classes: residential, non-residential, farmland, and machinery and equipment. And some of those, as you noticed, may be divided into subclasses. So it'd be a review on that, but also an education piece that has been brought forward, and that is my opening.
I see no other person in the queue here for debate. I'm glad that you're a policy, we'll call it a policy nerd, Councillor Crowson, because that's what I love about the work that you do, because it brings some of these forward to, some of these reviews that haven't been done for quite some time. So I thank you very much for bringing this forward. But I have nobody else in the queue, so you're there to close.
I'll call the question.
Question's been called. All in favor? Any opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you. All right, we're going here to 8.1, and I'm not going to read it through again as I've read it through in the consent agenda, but it is up on the screen, and I believe it was a motion arising number 2 that you were speaking to. Correct me if I'm wrong, Councillor Dodick.
You are correct. Okay. I'll wait till Councillor Carlson. Okay, excuse me. I'm going to propose an amendment, and the amendment will be along the lines of recommendation from the ESPC, being the motion rising number 2 as amended, be amended to remove the following items: re-tourism Lethbridge, item 2, re-ED economic development Lethbridge, item 2A. Okay, so the intent of this proposed amendment to the recommendation, that being motion arising number 2 as amended, is to remove $75,000 from the equation, which requires $37,500 to be allocated to each particular organization, which would then be used to hire an expert to conduct a study with respect to determining a value for money, a money for value review, as it's referred to in the resolution. So are there any questions on this? So you're the mover. Are you acting mayor or deputy mayor? I forgot. Oh, Deputy Mayor Parker, it's your resolution. I'm proposing that amendment.
You would be the mover, and you would just propose whatever you want to propose.
Oh, okay. Well, then I propose it.
Okay.
So I'm prepared to answer any questions, or I can explain the rationale for it. I'll do the rationale for it right now. The rationale for it is that too often we conduct studies and we get these nice reports, and a lot of times, with all due respect, they're not, that's not the word I'm seeking. I'm saying they're not of the use that we thought that we might be able to use them for. In other words, they don't accurately measure what it is that we're seeking. And we've already had, to use Councillor Middleton Hofe's words, a fulsome discussion with respect to the budgetary items, dealing both with the budget base as well as the new initiatives with respect to both organizations. And I don't think, or I believe, or I would propose that it is not necessary to spend $75,000 to undertake this particular review. So that's my rationale for it.
Councillor Carlson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Dodick, for bringing forward this amendment, which I do support. I'm just wondering if we need to do a further amendment so that on the screen there, the item 1, approve funding for 2023 through 2026, because otherwise that only...
Oh, yes.
We need to fund it for the full 4-year cycle.
Well, that's right. Yes, I noted that in my notes, but I didn't make a mention. So, yeah, just see, I had it so the words after 2026 are removed. No, leave it as it was. It can be a very simple, yeah.
I see what you're going to do.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. No, the contingent stays on that. That one only A leaves because there's a contingency that they still have to answer the question regarding the KPMG. There you got it. Well, technically, the B should then become an A or not even be there at all. Yeah. Thank you very much for pointing that out. Otherwise, yeah, that would be kind of nonsensical, but then, hey, I do that.
Councillor Campbell?
I don't know if this is this is a question or just a statement, or I don't know what it is. Should tourism and economic development, should we get feedback from them, I guess?
I think they would be delighted if this were removed.
Okay.
It means less work for them.
Well, the answer is I don't think we need their input on this.
I mean, because the intent is just to get, I guess I got to make sure that I understand that what the initial intent was, just to go out and get a third party to say, yeah, you're doing a good job, or you're not doing a good job.
That was the intent.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I don't think we would get that sort of feedback.
And they have done extensive research as it is, if I'm not mistaken.
And just to add to that, Councillor Campbell, I brought that forward to do, to review, because anytime to find efficiencies, et cetera, I thought was important. And I guess I'm one that disagrees. I think that somebody out there actually does this work, and this is what we can come back with. And I think the savings could be greater than what we're spending to actually look and do the review. So I would still stick to what I did back in during debate. Actually, sorry, I'm in debate here. I'll wait. Isn't that true? So thank you, Councillor Carlson.
No.
All right, I see no further questions to open debate.
I'll do the closing.
Right. Councillor Carlson.
Mr. Mayor, and again, thank you, Councillor Dodick, for bringing this up. It is, I think, incumbent on council to try and save tax dollars wherever we can. And in this, I think it's really incumbent on council. Council creates these organizations. Council sets the KPIs. Council sets the direction. I think it's up to council to decide whether we're getting our value for money. And I think approving these initiatives, and every 4 years we set the initiatives, and we have both of these organizations come into council on an annual basis and describe how they're achieving their goals, their targets that are set by council. And I think it's up to council to decide whether the community is getting value for the money for these, rather than some third party to try and guesstimate what council would like to see. So I will be supporting this and saving the $75,000. Thank you.
Councillor Campbell.
Just thanks for the clarification, Councillor Dodick. And I do believe, we do have to have faith in our organizations, and I have a great deal of faith economic development and tourism, that they know what they're looking for and they have a pulse on what's right and what's going right and what they need to do. And so saving that amount of money is a good idea. So I will be supporting the amendment.
Acting Mayor Schmidt-Rempel.
Thank you very much. And just to follow up with what my colleagues have already said, I'll be supporting this. Both organizations come to council and report back to council on a regular basis, and it's incumbent upon us to provide them with feedback on those reports back. If at that time we're finding they're not providing the value that we're looking for, then maybe that's a time when we have that study, but it is up to us to evaluate what we're getting as value from them. So I will be supporting this.
Thank you. I will not be supporting this. The reason I'm doing it, I know we heard that it's for council to make the decision. Well, the council to make the decision, obviously, to find an agency to look into it, because I don't know the ins and outs of either of these organizations, so it's important that we go to external organizations to look into it. I do have faith in them. It's not that we don't have faith in them if we're looking out to have a review done. And most organizations would welcome review because it'll show the wonderful work that they're doing. I think due diligence is to find out where there could be some efficiencies. And it may come back as a similar, a previous OBM that says, you know what, status quo is working. And I'm okay with that. It's just, I think our due diligence it's important to go through this exercise, as I know that we just had an update earlier about an exercise that Tourism Lethbridge is currently in the middle of. So I know that we've got the support of these organizations, but obviously there's been some questions out there, and this is why they're obviously having they're going through the studies and the exercise that they're going through at the moment. So with that, I can't support it. I do support the organization, but I will not support this. And I have no further, and no one else in the queue, so back to you, Councillor Dodick.
Yes, thank you. We recently went through the budget cycle. We had numerous fee-for-service groups asking for new initiatives, many of which we gave them some money. Some of them we gave all of the money they requested, and some got little or none of what they requested. So the due diligence was being done during the budget process. This seems to be a little bit above and beyond that due diligence, because I know that there were many questions with respect to tourism and economic development Lethbridge, and they came and they answered, and at this point in time I think it is incumbent on us, or at least I'm trying to sway council, that we do not need to spend $75,000 to purport to do what actually would not be done by such a report. I think the proof was in the pudding. Both organizations have done an excellent job and will continue to do so. So I would ask council support this amendment, and I would call a question.
Question's been called. All in favor? Opposed? All right. Thank you. That carries. Next one. All right, with that, we are, I need a motion to go in closed, and then we will return for 3 o'clock for our public hearing. Acting Mayor Schmidt-Rempel, all in favor? Opposed? So carries. So we're now in closed. Good afternoon and welcome to our public hearing for Tuesday, January 24th. I'm going to ask my colleagues if it's okay if we do move forward, do a little bit of changing around of the public hearings and start first with, where's the number here? 13.2. And then we will go back to 13.1 and 13.3. If that is okay, the colleagues. We do have, I would imagine most here in the gallery are here for 13.2. Sorry, 13.2 and 13.3, back to 13.1, I'm sorry. All right, that's okay. All right. So 13, this is 13.2. Okay. All right, bylaw 6390. City Council has received a letter withdrawing the application for this bylaw. Understanding the applicant does not wish to continue with the application, I have the following motion to withdraw. Be it resolved that City Council accept the withdrawal of the application for rezoning as provided in attachment number 13.2.2 and that the public hearing be cancelled. Okay, I do have a mover, Councillor Carlson and Councillor Dodick for questions.
The question is, or rather, I appreciate the fact that this is being withdrawn, but will council have an opportunity, or will we actually do a debate on the second reading, voting it down, if that is, if the resolution is passed? Or is this motion the only chance that we get to speak on it?
So this is a motion to accept the withdrawal, cancel the public hearing. There would still be a motion on the bylaw. We've done first reading, so it'd be second reading, so there would be debate before you vote on that bylaw, second reading.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, I do have a mover. I forgot a mover. I got a mover, Councillor Carlson. And with that, is there any questions or debate? If not, Councillor Carlson? Question's been called. All in favor? Opposed? So carries. So now we'll move into bylaw 6390. A second reading for 215 2nd Avenue South and 221 2nd Avenue South. For second reading, be it resolved that bylaw 6390 land use bylaw amendment read 215 2nd Avenue South and 221 1st Avenue South be given second reading. And for questions, I know we've already heard that we're taking this off procedurally. I'll go to questions or debate as there's no questions. So Councillor Dodick.
I'm in for debate.
We have no questions, so you can go ahead. Oh, we need a mover for this one, sorry.
I can move
Mover?
it.
You can move it? All right,
Will
Councillor
be-
Dodick.
But I will be requesting council to vote against it. And the only reason I wanted to say something about this is just to remind people that what happened a few weeks back on this particular bylaw, we had approximately 20 people speak, as well as organizations that were representing many downtown businesses. And I just wanted to ensure that every one of those folks knew that they were listened to and heard. And I had a concern with respect to the manner in which the bylaw, or rather the public hearing, was provided to council, in the sense that when council receives a public hearing report, it often has recommendations to it. Now, public hearings are a creature where council has to listen to everyone that wishes to speak, whether for or against it, as we did in this case, and had so many people speak very well against it, including a resident of the, in this case, the Castle Apartments, which is what this bylaw deals with. Administration apparently are not bound by the same rules that we're bound by, which is that we were supposed to keep an open mind and ensure that we made no decision, and that our decision was based solely on the information provided to us by the folks that were either presenting or speaking for or against it. When we received the report, the public hearing report from the administration, it quite clearly says that they were supporting the amendment of the land use bylaw and recommending that 3 readings be given of 6390. So clearly that creates a little bit of angst in my mind, because we as council are supposed to keep an open mind. Administration, in a case like this, does not keep an open mind. And I would suggest that in cases like this, where it's clearly going to be a contentious issue, that we simply be provided, as they used to say on Dragnet, the facts, just the facts. And that's not what we got here. We did get an indication of all the positives and the pluses, and I appreciate where Lethbridge Housing Association was coming from. But we need also to be able to hear from the businesses. And in looking at the report, when you look at the implications and what the financial implications are and things of that nature, it really seems that the businesses and the folks that were going to be directly and indirectly impacted by this really didn't have a say in the report itself. So if you're just someone looking at the public hearing report, you're only getting one side of the story, which I don't think is the way that it should be. The second issue I have is that, unfortunately, sometimes it feels like that we have as a fallback position going to direct control when the development permit sought doesn't fit into whatever the permitted and discretion or the permitted uses are in the zoning for which the development is proposed. Now, the land use bylaw says direct control is for the development of uses that, due to their particular circumstances or design characteristics, require specific sets of rules in order to achieve a desired result. So that was what was happening with the public hearing report, and the direct control is putting it on council to say, we're going to do this. Now, you'll see in the withdrawal letter, the indication is that they were now perhaps going to be going the discretionary use route. That means that a development officer makes the decision. And in this case, in the land use bylaw, discretionary use means a use of land or buildings in a district for which a development permit may be issued with or without conditions at the discretion of a development officer. There is something important in the land use bylaw that says that if, for example, the development officer does approve a development and folks want to take issue with that development, they at least have the opportunity to go to the Subdivision and Development Appeal Board to air their concerns. When council makes a decision on the direct control, that opportunity is not available to them. So I apologize for going at length. And even though I sponsored the bylaw based on the fact that we passed a resolution accepting the withdrawal, I'm going to be asking council to vote against second reading. In other words, confirming that in fact the withdrawal of the application or the development to direct control is gone. So I would ask for council support to defeat second reading of the bylaw.
Support to defeat. Yes, I do see no further debate, and so thank you very much for that. Those comments, Councillor Dodick, is it's the process is quite confusing, especially for those that are maybe navigating this for the first time and the process, and I think we need to we can do better. And I think we should do better, and it wouldn't cause the concern that we have, that we've seen over the past few weeks. And so with that, does that take you as your opening and closing?
I guess it is.
All right.
Okay.
So with that, question has been called. All in favor? Those opposed? Right. That fails. Sorry, Belinda, in favor or opposed?
In favor of being opposed.
in favor of being opposed? Thank you. All right, and for a third reading, oh, we don't have to, we cancel on the second. Good.
That one's done.
And now this is something, I tell you what, in my 9 years of being on council, I've never had to do one of these, so thank you for bearing with me on this. Bylaw 6391, City Council received a letter withdrawing the application for this bylaw. Understanding the applicant does not wish to continue with this application, I have the following motion to withdraw. Be it resolved, the City Council accept the withdrawal of the application for rezoning as provided in attachment number 13.3.2 and that the public hearing be cancelled. Can I have a sponsor for that resolution? Okay, Councillor Carlson. And questions, Councillor Carlson?
I have no questions. So I guess I do have a question on procedure on the last one and this one as well. Traditionally, we don't vote on second reading during a public hearing. We close the public hearing and revert to a council meeting to vote on second reading. So I'm just curious on process.
That's a great question. So the first motion, you accepted the withdrawal and you canceled the public hearing.
Okay.
And the same is going to happen here.
Okay.
And then we're going to vote on the second reading. Two separate motions.
So we're sort of just switching in and out of the public hearing into regular council.
It's all one meeting now.
Excellent.
Yep. We've
Just
changed
wanted to
that
make
a
sure
little
that
bit
we
of
were.
the votes.
We're in public, it's all one meeting. City and public hearing is one meeting.
Sorry, so I have no further questions unless there's further debate. I will
Were your opening and closing? Yep. All right, question has been called. All in favor? And I see that is unanimous. Thank you. All right, so now we'll move to the bylaw for second reading of bylaw 6391, re 535 8th Street South. For second reading, be it resolved that bylaw 6391, land use bylaw amendment, re 535 8th Street South, be given second reading. And Councillor Dodick, would you sponsor that with the same
yes,
stuff?
I'll introduce it, and I will not repeat what I said, but ditto.
Ditto. All right. With that, question's been called. All in favor? Those opposed? All right, it's defeated. Thank you. All right, and now move on to bylaw 6387. I call to order the public hearing for bylaw 6387, land use bylaw amendment, re 1240 29th Street North, 1501 28th Street North, 2911 3033 15th Avenue North, 1211 to 1481 29th Street North, and 1212 to 1453 30th Street North Broadcast Business Park. The procedure this hearing will be as following. I'll begin by calling up Mr. Boylan, Senior Community Planner, to provide background to the case. Anyone else who wishes to speak to this bylaw will then be called upon. We'll ask 3 times. If there's anyone else that wishes to make a presentation, City Council will then have the opportunity to ask questions of any of the presenters. The hearing will then be closed and consideration of second and third reading will be made by City Council immediately following the public hearing. So I now call on Mr. Boylan to provide background to the case.
Thank you, Your Worship and members of the Council. This is bylaw 6387. It's a proposed land use bylaw amendment to the Broadcast Business Park. Next slide, please. The slide above describes the applicant and the purpose for today's rezoning to a direct control district. And a representative from the applicant might be joining us online today to answer questions as well. Next slide, please. So the proposed amendment area is outlined in green above here, and it covers the developing area known as the Broadcast Business Park. This is the same area that was once a field that surrounded the Global TV studios for a number of years. This field was previously vacant, and it contained the guy wires for the broadcast tower and to restrict any broadcast interference. Now that Global TV has moved, this is no longer an issue here, leading to this development. The Broadcast Business Park is surrounded by the Churchill Industrial Park on 3 sides, which contain business and general industrial development. And to the west is 28th Street North, and across from this is the Park Meadows residential neighborhood. Next slide, please. So these photos are taken from the ground. On the top photo here is looking eastwards across the site from the other side of 28th Street North. The former Global TV studio is the orange building that's shown on the right-hand side of this image. The bottom picture here is looking northwards down the newly constructed 29th Street North and into the Broadcast Business Park. On the left of this image are the apartment buildings that were just recently constructed. Next slide, please. So the site is not part of any area structure plan or outline plan, as the area around it was developed a number of decades ago. When the Broadcast Business Park was first proposed a few years ago, it was rezoned to urban innovation, which requires a comprehensive site plan. The latest iteration of this is from 2018, and its land use map is shown above, and it shows the uses of commercial, high-density residential, and also business industrial. Next slide, please. So this slide shows the existing and the proposed land use districts. The existing UI district and its associated comprehensive plan do not allow for general industrial uses, which the applicant wishes for on the easterly extent of the Broadcast Business Park. This is compatible with the already existing general industrial development that is directly adjacent in the Churchill Industrial Park. The existing comprehensive UI approach did a good job in laying out the Broadcast Business Park's infrastructures and roadway, but as changes to the land use are now proposed, a DC district that now focuses on land use regulation works better moving forwards. Excuse me. The existing DC districts are used for developments that, due to their particular circumstances or design characteristics, require specific sets of rules in order to achieve a desired result. In this case, a mix of business and general industrial combined with residential and commercial uses that are not found in any conventional district. It will also remove and add a few land uses that are not currently allowable under the business industrial areas of the comprehensive site plan. Next slide, please. So the application was evaluated in terms of different planning documents, including the South Saskatchewan Regional Plan, and it complies with the policies above. Next slide. In terms of the governing MDP, the proposed amendment is in compliance with its policies and its land uses. No concerns from city staff were identified through our circulation either. Next slide, please. So mailers were sent out to 32 owners of the parcel shown in the green hatched areas above. This included owners of both industrial and residential parcels, as appeared in the Herald, and it was also advertised for the public on the city's website. And I received no calls from nearby landowners of the public about this bylaw as of today. Next slide, please. So in conclusion, bylaw 6387 is compliant with all existing statutory and approved plans for the area, and a recommendation is on the slide above. Thank you.
Just have some people trying to log into Teams, so it'll just be just a minute here. While we're waiting for them, are there any members of the public that wish to make a presentation on this matter? Reminder, you'll have 5 minutes to speak to the issue. And for a second time, are there any members of the public that wish to make a presentation on this matter? And I know, Ryan, it's Mr. Westerson, you're still waiting to get some on Teams that do want to speak. Okay, and for a third and final time, but I do see someone coming on that wishes to make a presentation. Mr. Harvey, if you are on, you have the floor.
Yeah, sorry, it's having a little bit of technical issues there. Just wanted to let you guys know that we've had lots of inquiries from agribusiness, and this is the reason for trying to rezone, so we can actually accommodate the agribusiness inquiries we've had over the last 3 years. So that's basically it. I hope to get full support from your worship and council for this rezoning.
Right. Thank you. Hearing there's no other presenters, it's now time to ask City Council if they have any questions. And I do have questions in the queue. Councillor Carlson to start.
Thank you, Mayor Hagan. Thank you, Mr. Harvey. Thank you, Mr. Boylan, for the presentation information. If I can, through you to Mr. Boylan, because in in the information I have, it talks about Section 7 and Section 8 and differences in between them. Can you point those out to me on that map? I couldn't, maybe it was just me or understanding, or maybe I misunderstood when it was talking between the Section 8 excluding, I can't remember what it called it. Proposed East District Area Section 7 in Area C and Section 8 in Area D, but I couldn't see them on the map.
Sure.
On
So
the map?
it's actually shown on the, I think it's Schedule B of the bylaw, that map, and I'll have Mr. Westerson put that up on the screen so we can see it. So Section 7 applies to Area C, which is that the kind of central L-shaped area. That is the more business industrial area. Section 8 applies to Area D, which is the opposite area, which is closest to the existing development in the Churchill Industrial Park to the east and north.
Okay, thank you. So I couldn't see any Section 7 or 8, so maybe I was just misunderstanding what you were talking about there. There's no 7 or 8 on this, but
there's Section 7 and Section 8, which are in the bylaw.
Okay, and I've got that open.
In the direct control bylaw.
Okay. My other question, the actual center area where the former global site was, and now I believe is the restoration company and some other things there, is that staying urban innovation, or because it looked like that's excluded from this? So what is the zoning of that section?
So that one's still zoned UI.
Remains.
Yeah, still. That one's owned by a different landowner who didn't want to participate in this exercise here.
Thank you.
Councillor Middleton-Ho.
Thank you, Mr. Boylan, for the presentation. Although it's not characterized by Mr. Harvey, I will direct the question to him. Mr. Harvey, I have a concern with the proposal as indicated. There's information in here that suggests that a bulk fuel station might be part of the development. Is that accurate?
I believe that was contained within the existing zoning that was being overlaid. There's a lot of requirements around that would exclude that probably from this site, but it's just basically it's a typical industrial zoning that happens in a lot of the lands that's right around surrounding us. And so that was added into just basically to keep some sort of consistency as we went forward on the industrial zoning.
This is immediately adjacent to residential properties. You're familiar with the Hub Oil disaster in Calgary?
I am.
What is the likelihood that, if we're putting a bulk fuel station into this area adjacent to a residential development, I view this as highly problematic. Is there a way that that may be eliminated from the proposal overall?
Yeah, I don't think we have an issue with that, Councillor. It's, again, the consistency is that everything around us already has that zoning to allow that. So whether it's inside of our boundaries or 10 feet across our property line, in that whole area, that is a permitted use. And so, but for our business park, we don't have an issue with that not being in there. Again, it was just basically to try to keep consistency with what the existing zoning is around our entire site.
Yeah, I think the long-term strategy that municipalities are now looking at is to transition away from gas stations, bulk fuel locations, and so forth, because of the high cost of mitigation and the move towards other sources of energy for vehicles. So I'm certainly encouraged by your acknowledgement that this is a facility that does not need to be a part of this development. Do I characterize that accurately?
You do, yeah. And again, we worked with administration to try to keep a lot of the zoning in line with what was around us. Specifically for Broadcast Business Park, we're not that concerned on, a bulk fuel station in that area.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Palladino.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To the planner, Mr. Boylan, when the applicant, it says the applicant is the City of Lethbridge and Concept Investment Partners?
Yes, correct.
Who pays the $5,500 on that one?
What's that, sorry?
Who pays the application fee?
Our department paid on that.
As I understand this, you are trying to replace, or you're asking to replace the, some of the land out of the Urban Innovative District with 2 direct control bylaws? Or 2?
One direct control bylaw.
One district.
Yeah.
Right.
So essentially, this DC bylaw replaces that UI comprehensive plan on that part.
So the one district will cover the 2 different areas then?
It'll cover, yes. So the DC bylaw applies to areas A, B, C, and D on the map above there.
Wouldn't it have been simpler just to add the uses that the developer proposes into the existing Urban Innovative District?
So right now, the UI district and Associated Comprehensive Plan did a pretty good job with establishing and planning out the infrastructure and the roadways now, but now that's been developed already. So right now, a more land use akin district works better. The focus is primarily upon the land use regulations here instead.
All right. Any further questions? I see no further questions. Hearing none, I now declare the public hearing closed. This matter may be decided later this afternoon following the public hearing. And they were all in one meeting, so we'll hop back to our regular scheduled. For a second read, bylaw 6387, land use bylaw, re 1240, 29th Street North, 1501 28th Street North, 2911 to 3033, 15th Avenue North, 1211 to 1481 29th Street North, and 1212 to 1453 30th Street North, Broadcast Business Park. And for a mover, Councillor Carlson. For second reading, be it resolved that bylaw 6387, land use bylaw amendment, re 1240 29th Street North, 1501 28th Street North, 2911 to 3033, 15th Avenue North, 1211 to 1481 29th Street North, and 1212 to 1453 30th Street North, Broadcast Business Park, be given second reading. And Councillor Carlson, are there any questions first? Seeing none? Councillor Carlson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think, as we heard, the Urban Innovation District served its purpose for this area, but will be better served moving forward to a direct control in this area. So I'd ask for my colleague's support.
No further debate. So with that, question's been called. All in favor? Any opposed? It's unanimous. And for a third reading, Councillor Carlson, be it resolved that bylaw 6387, land use bylaw amendment, read 1240, 29th Street North, 1501 28th Street North, 2911 to 3033, 15th Avenue North, 1211 to 1481 29th Street North, and 1212 to 1453 30th Street North, Broadcast Business Park, be given third reading, and the mayor and city clerk be authorized to sign and seal the same. Councillor Carlson?
All for the vote.
Question's been called. All in favor? Opposed? Carries, and those addresses will be forever embedded in my name after reading them that many times. So I'll ask, is there any council updates? None? All right. Motion to go back in closed. Acting Mayor Schmidt-Rempel, all in favor? Opposed? So carries. most. Sure. So who would be acting mayor would be, she could bring it up, right?
Yep.
Okay, acting mayor. I'm going to sponsor the city manager one.
Okay.
So you'll be reading that one. If that's okay.
That's all right with me.
That's the first one. What's that? That was it. Right there. All right. We will get back into our regular scheduled meeting. And we'll start off with 14.1. I'll turn it to acting mayor as I'm sponsor.
All right, we have from Mayor Higgin, City Manager Performance Review 14.1, whereas the Municipal Government Act Section 205.1 requires that council provide the city manager with an annual written performance review, and whereas the city manager's employment contract gives consideration to an annual step increment to base salary upon the completion of an acceptable performance review, and whereas the city manager is not eligible for any cost of living adjustments provided to other administration staff, and whereas the city manager's employment contract requires that salary compression with direct reports be addressed, and whereas consideration to equivalent positions in comparator municipalities is important in setting city manager compensation, therefore be it resolved that City Council conclude the 2022 performance review process, and further be it resolved that City Council adjust the city manager's base salary to $286,000 per year effective retroactive to December 14th, 2022, and further be it resolved that City Council direct the closed meeting discussions with respect to the City Manager Performance Review be kept confidential as per Section 17, harmful to personal privacy, 23, local public body confidences, and 24, advice from officials of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. Mayor Higgin.
Any questions? Questions? I'll wait to end debate, I guess.
No questions. Your opening and closing?
I can close if anyone has anything to add.
Not seeing anything? No.
All right. With that, I would just ask for council support. We had the opportunity, myself and Deputy Mayor at the time was acting mayor, did a thorough review after getting input back from all of council. And so this is what was come up and discussed with all of council. And I think it is very fair and fits in line with what other communities are. And so for that reason, I would ask for council support. And first off, I'd like lastly, I'd like to thank Mr. Brierly for the work. I know it's right before a budget, our CIP, which was something that was a long process and walked right into the beginning of it. And thank you for all of the work that you and your team did throughout that, being new in the role. I'm sure it was a lot of long hours. I've seen that vehicle here quite regularly late at night. So thank you very much for that work. And we look forward to 2023 and some of the and working forward together with council and yourselves in 2023. So with that, Councilor Carlson.
Carlson has a question.
Oh, no, I thought we were in debate.
Councillor Carlson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for bringing this forward. I'll add my appreciation to Mr. Brierly for the work, but also to the Agenda Review Committee, as well as all council that participated in this. I think the work was done to make sure that we were doing our due diligence with fair compensation through other municipalities, and I will support this resolution.
Seeing no one else in the queue, vote's been called. All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, that carries.
14.2, I have a resolution from Councillor Campbell. City manager update. Be it resolved that City Council directed the closed meeting discussions with respect to city manager update. Verbal remain confidential pursuant to Section 24. Advice from officials of the Freedom of Information Protection of Privacy Act. Councillor Campbell.
Call the question.
Question has been called. All in favor? Opposed? It carries. Did you have that other? Did you get the one back for the close? Oh, that's that one. Okay. Next, I have from Councillor Palladino, a development matter 14.3. Be it resolved the City Council postpone this matter to the February 7th, 2023 meeting of Council. Further be resolved that City Council direct that the closed meeting reports, documents, and discussion with respect to the development matter remain confidential pursuant to Sections 21, harmful to intergovernmental relations, and 24, advice from officials of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. Councillor Palladino. Question's been called. All in favor? Opposed? And 14.4 from Councillor Dodick, appointments to boards, commissions, and committees. Be it resolved the City Council appoint the following public members to serve on their boards, commissions, and committees as outlined below for the following terms effective immediately. For the Assessment Review Board, Andy Similai for a 3-year term expiring December 31st, 2025. And the Lethbridge Police Commission, Clement Essene, a 3-year term expiring December 31st, 2025. And Jennifer Visser, a 3-year term expiring December 31st, 2025. Ratify the following organizational representative to serve on their boards, commissions, and committees as outlined below for the following terms effective immediately. The Reconciliation Lethbridge Advisory Committee, Cindy Bester, Business Sector Representative for a 3-year term expiring December 31st, 2025. Further be resolved, the City Council directed the closed meeting reports, documents, and discussion with respect to the appointments to boards, commissions, and committees remain confidential pursuant to Section 17, harmful to personal privacy, 19, confidential evaluations, 23, local public body confidences, and 24, advice from officials of the Freedom of Information Protection and Privacy Act. Councillor Dodick.
I just want to thank everyone who has applied to serve on these boards and commissions, and would ask for council support, and I call the question, and nobody else has any questions.
No questions or debate, so question's been called. All in favor? Any opposed? It's unanimous. And from Councillor Carlson, closed meeting, boards, commissions, and committees legal. Be it resolved that City Council proceed with their confidential direction provided in closed session, and further be resolved that City Council direct that the closed meeting reports, documents, and discussions with respect to boards, commissions, and committees legal remain confidential pursuant to Section 27, privileged legal of the Freedom of Information Protection of Privacy Act. Councillor Carlson.
I would call for the vote.
Question's been called. All in favor? Any opposed? That carries. And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you.